Are you looking to be a legend in the map making game? Maybe you need a key to tell you how to elevate your cartography skills. I'll gladly point you in the right direction, as long as the scale of your question isn't too large. So let's chart a course for greatness while we pretend we're from Boston and map up the competition. So let's start this by saying that I am by no means a map making expert. I'm just going to show you what I do to go about my map making process for towns. Now, you can make a map out of anything. Just a little note card like this gets the absolute point across. Can you imagine if you had never been given anything for D&D and your DM comes out with this folded piece of paper that shows, hey everybody, here's the map. You have this as a reference. This is absolutely good enough. Everything that we're going to do in this video is just extra. As long as it gets the point across, that's my philosophy, that is okay. Now, it also helps you remember things, so you don't have to just write it down on your hand, so it kind of serves two purposes. And it's fun to help develop your world. I've been developing maps for each of the towns in my world with a program called Wonderdraft. Now, you could definitely do it by hand, but I don't have any artistic skills, so I like the aid of a program. This is a town called Ashburn. I've been making one map for every town in my world because that's a big project that I want to work on. You can see it's very detailed using this program, far more detailed than I'd be able to make by hand, and I like the fact that it's digital because I can add things later, like this brown path here happened when a purple worm attacked the town and made its way rampaging through the top portion. You can see when I minimize this, it's actually the original map was my desktop background and that brown part is not there, so I'm able to edit it kind of on the fly. The first map I ever made with this program is my world map of my homebrew world called Asterion. It's got a bunch of kingdoms like the colonies of the Queen, Egron, the giant city-state, the kingdom of the Coracrucians, the land of Ludroth, the Silverlands, Obervane, as well as the Scorch, and finally Elfenvale. Now, my current campaign takes place in Ashburn, a small city within Elfenvale, and this is detailed enough to where you can see it from the map or zoom in and kind of get a good picture of the town. But today, we're going to focus on making a town from scratch in the Kingdom of Obervane. We're going to make Hempholm, which is right next to the capital city of Colchester. This program's also got a lot of really great presets, like starting with your sizes. I like to make things in 4K resolution because they make for good desktop backgrounds, and that's my main reason for it. I also have some assets that I purchased in addition to buying the program. You absolutely do not need them. They come with a ton of beautiful free assets, but I did because I use this program a lot. Now, it starts off by making water, and you can change how the water looks, the different saturations, if you want it to look like it's made out of old parchment that's stained, which is generally what I like to do with the worn feature. And from there, you can start making things like continents or even different islands. You can see this one, it's generated randomly, and you can change the water level. It looks like a fantastic world, and I probably should have saved this because this is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm going to time-lapse my working through this. One thing I do want to show before I get too far into the time lapse, the main tool I like to use is the symbol tool. You can see here I'm putting a bridge down and using that as my main scale factor for how I'm going to make this town map. I'm using the picture I took here of my overworld map to get a reference of what Hempholm looks like and its surroundings. I can see that there's a river towards the bottom right, as well as Hempholm is up on its own little cliffside, so I want to make some cliffs using some of the assets that it gives me within Wonderdraft. I think that's one of the nicest things, is trying to get elevation across whenever you're making your maps. It gives it more of a 3D rather than a 2D feel. And I'm not going to do a tutorial of Wonderdraft. This is purely showing I'm making this map for a town map so that people have a reference when they're going through this little one-shot that I'm doing. So you can see I put a bunch of trees, some mountains, and some other baseline things. Now I get to do my favorite part, which is putting down the buildings and really developing the town. This is fun for me because when I'm trying to make a map, I'm trying to build a story. So for when I'm doing this Hempholm map, I wanted to build a story around they're fighting a bunch of greenskins, either goblins or orcs, and that's the reason that this garrison and this barricade at Hempholm exists. It used to be this villa near a mine with farming, which Hempholm, right? That's why it was called that. But now, why are they there? Why do they need to be here? So that's what I've been trying to set up, is trying to make this look like, yeah, there's been some conflict between the people that live here, the people of Obervane, and now this force within the mountains. And so if you're trying to tell the story, put details in there that help match that story. That way it's not just a map, you're developing a story. Now, something that I don't always do whenever I'm developing maps like this, but I'm doing it for one-shots, is writing out key locations on the map, like the Red Wagon Inn. That's the home of the Adventurers Guild, and there's always going to be a Red Wagon Inn at every single town in my worlds. Now, I'm also putting in other key points of information. I wouldn't do this if the point of the one-shot or campaign was exploration, but for this one I want them to know, hey, these are some good areas that you either have heard of already or may want to take a look at, or easy for me to reference whenever we're in that one-shot. I can say, they're over at Killer's Cliff and they know where that is, or they're near the northeastern Aegis Tides River, and they can find that very easily without having to kind of explore it and learn over time. With a one-shot, you want to spell things out as best as possible. And we've got ourselves our completed Hemp Home map. I think it looks pretty darn good. I think it prints out nicely. I'm using some cardstock paper here for what we're going to do to these maps moving forward. You can see it's got some nice detail in there, and my printer's pretty garbage, so if you can see it on my printer, you can see it on pretty much any printer. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I like to present maps out to people, and the easiest way I find to print maps and cut them so that you have a nice looking cut is this little slidey cut thing. Scissors work totally fine, but if you had a mom who liked to help you with your craft projects, you'll be very familiar with these little slidey things. It's basically what got me through elementary school, because I cannot cut things in a straight line. I don't know what it is, but I just can't do it. So now I've got some cutout versions of the maps for us to work with, and we're going to make a couple different things. We're going to show how to make scrolls as well as fold up maps. Now for a scroll, I like to use twine like this. I got one set of 3 different colors at the dollar store for $1, so this is a very cheap way to turn your little pieces of paper into some old-timey looking scrolls. So I roll it up nice and tight. I take some of the twine and just wrap it around maybe 5 or 6 times. You can just do it once, so you can do it as many times as you want, and do the beginning of a shoelace knot, and bam, that is a completed and good enough scroll. That's an awesome looking prop, and I would love to receive that at the start of any one-shot or at the start of any campaign, really. But a lot of people do also like to do the full shoelace knot on them. I don't really care for that one as much, but you know, I see the merit for it. I like to take the twine and cut off the end so it looks like there's barely anything there, because I want, once you take the twine off, to be done with the twine. The other thing that I like to do is take the map and use the important part up on the top left side and fold it first, and fold it about 4/5 of the way up the paper, and then fold one more bit to make it look like a regular letter. If you fold it too short, you're not going to have enough surface area for what we're going to do next. I actually prefer this way over the scroll way because it's really easy to fit into notebooks and carry along with you whenever you're going on to a session, and it doesn't really affect your map all that much. Now that's all fine and dandy, but we can elevate it to one other level using some wax seals. I have this wax seal here that comes with one of each letter so that you can customize it how you want. Like I could put an R for Ribinator if I wanted to, because, you know, I am Ribinator, and do a wax seal. I actually am going to use an A because in all my adventures, all the maps are made by the Adventurers Guild, so that's typically what I seal it with, is an A. It comes with these little sticks, like this gold wax here. Of course I have a gold one that you just light up and it lets the wax drip off the end. This is a new one. I've been using a bunch of them for a long time, so this is one that's been used. You can see the wick is a little shorter. I'm gonna show you a trick how to make it easier to get that wax going. Now, one thing that I always forget about is when you first light this up, there's a bit of clear wax covering the front of it, and you're gonna get a drip on there, and I don't like that, and I wish I would remember, but I just always forget to. So you can know now because you've seen the video, but I forget to every time. So after this is lit up, it'll slowly start to drip wax, and that wick will kind of fade away, and this will take forever. So what I typically do is I hold my lighter right near the end of it, which will help heat the wax up, and you'll get a much more steady flow, which, by the way, doesn't that look gorgeous close up on that wax side? Once I get enough wax, I blow out the little wax stick there and just kind of twirl up any excess wax that I can, and I push my little wax sealer down on it. I leave it for maybe 10 seconds, and then it's cold enough to hold its actual letter that we indented into the wax. I'm sure there's a more proper term for that, but now we have an A for the Adventurers Guild with this letter, which this makes an even better prop to give to your players, because they're like, whoa, what the heck is this? I do this for letters all the time when I either send them out to people or whenever I send them in the game, whenever they're getting a missive from somebody for a quest. Now, for if you have one of those smaller wicks, you can do the same thing. Just hold your lighter pretty close to the wax and you get a pretty good looking drip, enough for you to get the seal back down on there, and we've got our second version of these. I did 2 because I wanted to show another thing that you can do with these to improve them later. Now we've got 2 different setups and 3 maps total, and I want to show another thing that you can do to make it a little bit more thematic. So if you like to have the scrolls in the style of like Game of Thrones, where the scrolls themselves are sealed, what you can do over the twine is pour some wax like this silver one, and I'm going to use an O for Obervane, the actual country in which Hemphoem resides, and push it down onto the scroll. Even though it's rounded, you can get a pretty good seal on it, and once you pop it back out, it looks really darn good. And this is a nice setup to where you can say, all right, now this looks like an old school prop for a map, and you can be very, very happy with that. Or if you just want it to look different because you didn't like the other way I did things, this is another way to go about it. Now, say you like to use these for one-shots, but you don't want to run the run shot only one time, or you don't want to make more maps. A trick to fixing these is put a little bit of wax underneath. You can push the seal back down, and now you've got yourself a resealed letter. A proper thief would be able to tell that that has been forged and opened before by that little excess bit of wax, but for our purposes, it's resealed and good to go for another one-shot. So as I said earlier, artistic ability is not a skill that I share with others. My handwriting is just awful, but maybe if I wanted to learn, I could do so by using the website Skillshare. I like having them as a sponsor because they kind of are in line with what we like to do in the channel. We like to learn and share skills. They're an online community that offers membership with meaning. They have a lot to explore, a ton of projects by other creatives, and you can get support from them that help you accomplish real growth in areas that you want to grow in. Skillshare offers classes designed for real life, so you can move your creative journey forward without putting your life on hold. You can learn and kind of grow with short classes that will fit a busy routine. And right now we've got nothing but time to learn new skills, so it's a great opportunity to start with this. There are classes you would never expect, like fantasy mapmaking. If you wanted to learn more about the topic that I'm showing you right here now, you can learn from actual experts on the subject. And it's pretty darn affordable. At less than $10 a month for an annual subscription, you get to actually learn for a price that's way cheaper than a lot of those pricey in-person classes. So let's make 2020 a year where you can explore some new skills, deepen your existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's online classes. And what you find might surprise you. The first 500 of my subscribers to actually click the link in the description will get 2 free months of premium membership so that you can explore your creativity, which I think is pretty dope. I want to say a quick thank you to all the patrons who have been supporting this channel. I know that this was not the video that anybody expected to see, as we were planning on working with some UV resin, but that UV resin has been pretty garbage and just has not been working, so we're going to get to that one in the future. But I really wanted to get this map making one out, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Patrons at a certain tier are actually going to get these map making files as well as the other digital maps that I make moving forward, so hopefully if you want to play in your own version of Asterion, you can, and you would enjoy having these maps for your campaigns. Maybe consider subscribing if you like this kind of D&D DIY content, or if you want to learn how to make your own dice from scratch. That's kind of the main thing we do on this channel. This is just a side project that I like doing every now and again. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you and your families are staying safe during this kind of chaotic and crazy time, and that maybe a project like this can help you pass the time until we can get things back to normal. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a fantastic day.